Hi, everybody. Good morning. Good afternoon for those of you on the East Coast, or good evening if you're watching from far away or on a recording. I really appreciate you joining me this morning, or whatever time of day, to talk about one of the hottest topics in the ad industry right now, which is how to spot a made-for-advertising site. I'm going to jump right into the agenda here. And it looks like we have about 28, 30 people here live. We had about 100 registrants for the webinar. So I think we've got some folks that are watching the recording. And I know that there's a mix of folks who are attending this. There are folks in the ad industry, ad and media industry, and there are folks who are in education fields looking at this for a more general media literacy, internet literacy type of frame. And I'm going to try to do my best to keep the jargon, ad industry jargon, to a minimum so that this is accessible for everyone. And I really encourage questions. You can ask them as we go along. I won't necessarily get to them all in the middle of the webinar, but I will do my best to answer as many of it as I can by the end of them. Okay, so let's jump right in. Going to share my screen, and we're going to look at a lot of interesting websites in our media landscape today. How to spot a made-for-advertising site. Quick agenda for the day. We're going to touch first on why we at Adfontes Media even rate MFA sites. We'll talk about ad industry concerns about MFA. MFA is made for advertising. I'm going to say that phrase a lot today, and the efforts to address it. There are currently quite a few efforts. Then we'll spend most of the time talking about our classification methodology and examples. Examples are the most fun. Hopefully my computer doesn't crash by having eventually a lot of tabs open at the end of this webinar. So why we even rate MFAs? For those of you who may not be super familiar with my company, well, my name is Vanessa Otero. I'm the founder and CEO of Adfontes Media, and we rate the news for reliability and bias. That's the bread and butter of what we do. And MFAs are, this very topic is very closely tied in to the mission of what we do, rating the news every day. I have this image, a static image of the media bias chart, which you may be familiar with from seeing it on social media across the years. And again, our primary thing is to rate news sources for reliability and bias. As we went along across the media ecosystem, especially on the internet, we'd see low reliability sites, high reliability sites, the best journalism, the worst fake news, opinion blogs, everything in between, things that skew left and right, things that are extremely far out there left and right. And what we noticed is that they link to so many more websites. And if you are a news reader, a news consumer, which I think it's safe to say most of you likely are, you probably come across these sites too. Maybe you don't really pay too much attention to them or really click on them, and you may not know where they lead, but they're an important part of our news ecosystem. So we started exploring this more and more and more, because when we came to the media industry, the ad industry, with our data, we thought that it would be helpful for at least one reason. And we thought that reason would be, we can help advertisers avoid extremely polarizing content and misleading and inaccurate content. Because we'd go to the sites in the bottom corners of this chart and see sometimes some fairly big brands advertising, some small brands advertising on those sites. And we thought, they probably don't want to do that. Maybe they do, but we assume best that they don't want to do that. But the more large brands we talk to, Fortune 100, Fortune 50 companies, the more told us, that's not really a problem for us, because we just don't really advertise in news anymore. And that really struck me. I said, what do you mean you don't advertise in news anymore? And a lot of folks said, well, we don't really want to associate with anything that might be upsetting or unpleasant. So now we've got these really warped incentives where polarizing content at the bottom and the sides of this chart, misleading content, is pretty cheap and easy to make relatively to high reliability journalism. The high reliability journalism, it takes staff, it takes journalists, it takes people, effort and salaries to go out and get the news and bring it to us, and that's expensive. So the low quality sites, cheap to make, and enough ad dollars flow to it so that they can exist and proliferate and be profitable. Whereas, big brands pulling away from the news category in general really makes it hard for these high reliability publishers to really count on that income. So made for advertising sites fill this really strange and unique role in the media ecosystem, our online advertising system in particular. So I'll talk quite a bit about programmatic advertising today. So if you're not familiar with programmatic advertising, it's the systems and methods and the technology that allow digital ads to be served onto the websites that you read. All these transactions happen really quickly in milliseconds, which is why you can click on a site, see tons of ads that are relevant to you for sites that things that you may be generally interested in and things that you've clicked on before. All the data and all the technology that goes into serving those ads is run by the programmatic ecosystem for the most part. There's direct buying too, but again, I'm going to try to stay away from industry terminology. The role that MFAs play is that they tend to monetize low reliability and extremely polarizing sites. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to sort of unfairly pick on Breitbart because Breitbart's not the lowest quality, it's not the lowest rated and furthest right site on our chart, but it is one of the most well-known. And for folks who have for advertisers who have an aversion to advertising on polarizing content, Breitbart is sort of top of the list for things that they want to avoid. Now you see that there are some ads from brands on here. So this boot brand here, this clothing brand here, but then you see a bunch of stuff here on the side. And you may be familiar with these. It says sponsored stories. So this says big pharma outraged. Your swollen feet are trying to tell you something about your heart. Find out. Awkward family photos, greatest hits. Surgeon ringing in the ears. Do this immediately. So not all of these are what we call made for advertising sites or MFA. Some of them are in a different class called advertorials, where they're directly selling a product, often a health product. So quick fixes for some sort of medical ailment. Most of the medical ailment ones are advertorials, but the ones that have like awkward family photos, greatest hits, let's click on this one. It's called History Obsessed. I've never visited, before yesterday, I had never visited historyobsessed.com. This is not on my radar. This is not bookmarked for me. This is not a site that I'm just like, oh, I would love to see what's on historyobsessed.com. But it's, the picture here, all right, maybe you're just curious, like, I want to see how awkward these family photos really are. And then you get taken to a site. And this is sort of a classic made for advertising site. I'm going to point out a couple of features of this particular site here, but I'm going to go through a lot more details. And you probably can't hear it in the background, but my computer fan is like starting to spin and make a lot of noise because there are a lot of ads being loaded up onto this page right now. So these are pretty big brand ads. So Lego, that's Kellogg. There's a A&B Bank. Sorry if any of you are affiliated with these advertisers. This is just what shows up. Hulu, Disney, Paramount Plus, Microsoft. So this site, even though none of these advertisers are advertising directly on Breitbart, they are indirectly monetizing Breitbart with these ad dollars. So that's one way that Breitbart, even though folks, a lot of folks have it on their list of things that they don't advertise on, still makes plenty of ad dollars. You can see lots of different advertorials in different areas here. Again, these lists here on the side, we call those chum boxes. All right, well, the industry calls them chum boxes. I'm going to close this out so it doesn't, so I save some bandwidth here. The other thing they do, it's not just on these polarizing, misleading sites, though, that made for advertising sites exist. They also exist on high quality advertisers. So let's take a look at AP News. So AP News is one of the most successful, most reliable, reputable journalism outlets, minimally biased. They employ thousands of journalists worldwide. It's actually a wire service where they sell their news content to other newspapers. So they do have some direct advertising on here from Best Buy, Microsoft Surface. But as I mentioned, a lot of big brands avoid content, avoid news content. So let's pick a article here. All right, this is about the war. Now, advertisers have tools in the programmatic ecosystem to not only block news as a category if they don't want to be associated with news, but particularly to block content that may be sort of upsetting or yucky in some way, or even just negative. In this case, content just about war. So this sort of article is harder to monetize because so many more advertisers are blocking it. But they need to be able to sell this advertising space. So if they can't sell it to a big brand advertiser, even though there's lots of people reading the very important stories, they might sell it to smaller retailers. Here, Lily Silk is a retailer from which I have recently bought a couple of shirts, so it's targeted to me. And there we go. We have a bunch of chum boxes of made for advertising sites. And I'll pull up one that's that I've seen on both, let's see, Pink Possible. I've seen this linked to both Breitbart and to AP News, and it's a list of the 45 most expensive dog breeds in the world, and it's just a long article with large pictures of dogs and their prices, and you give it a few minutes, it's going to start generating, spinning up and serving the ads, the big brand ads on this particular site. If you hear my dogs barking in the background, it's just about par for the course because I have 4 dogs. This would be appealing to me. Okay. Except I don't buy expensive dogs. I rescue dogs because I love little rescue mutts. Okay. So these are actually sort of important to sites like AP. And especially if they have trouble selling this ad placement and ad space to these sites, to big advertisers, they have to monetize some way. And these networks of made for advertising sites provide some revenue, and in fact, substantial revenue to AP. So, and other reputable publishers. So it's not a mixed bag of what of the role that MFAs play in the advertising ecosystem. Now, what's our point of view on this? Well, our point of view is that more information helps in a marketplace of ideas. Some advertisers want to advertise on made for advertising sites, and it's their choice to do so. And there are likely tens of thousands of these types of sites out there, which again, in the advertising ecosystem, we think that one of the most damaging things that these sorts of sites do is monetize the low reliability sites and compete with high reliability publishers for ad dollars. There are, I mean, think about before digital days. It used to be more expensive to create and print journalism because you had to print it, but you didn't have to compete with tens of thousands of other, like the print publications didn't compete with tens of thousands other, pamphlets or flyers of awkward family photos or expensive dogs. Like that just wasn't a thing. Now that everything's online and the cost of putting up any website is much cheaper, now that ad dollars are competing not only with other things online like social media, YouTube, etc., but with thousands of other sites that are just cheap and easy to draw traffic to. So advertisers have a choice of what they spend their money on. And often when they're spending money in this advertising ecosystem, they don't necessarily know all the sites that their ads are going to. And that may seem like a strange concept to those of you who are not in the advertising industry, but let me talk about the general ad industry concerns about made for advertising and the efforts to address it thus far. So, we care about it because of the role it plays in misleading content and polarizing content and demonetizing reputable publishers. That's what we care about. But there are other reasons people care about it too. For example, when there are too many intrusive ads that pop up on the page, advertisers don't love that because it's distracting, it's a lot of clutter, and it's therefore a bad user experience. So if your ad is showing up, 8 times on one page, the user doesn't necessarily think that's a good thing. Like they're not like, "Ooh, I want to buy it more." And if it's stuff they have to click out or it's obtrusive, they may actually be annoyed by it. So that's one main reason the ad industry has issues. Another one is that the technology to serve so many ads is really wasteful of energy. And there are companies out there like Scope 3 and Good Loop and several others that measure the carbon emissions of all the like massive servers that it takes to serve these ads to you so quickly, and especially so many of them. So a site that doesn't load as many ads or loads them a little bit more judiciously, less quickly, that takes actually less energy than ones where it's just ads all over the place. That's why I keep referring to my computer fan spinning up and in my computer getting hot. You may have noticed it's taking some bandwidth from my broadcast here. It's very, very energy and resource intensive. It actually creates emissions and bad for the environment. So because of the confluence of these reasons, and generally, like when you look at these sites too, we'll see some other ones that just aesthetically, they're kind of cheap and trashy. I mean, people like cheap and trashy things. It's totally fine if people want to, spend their time on it. But a lot of the stuff is really just low quality, sort of internet filler junk. You and I, as we go through these examples, will probably chuckle like, I can't believe somebody spent the energy to make a site on the internet that has this and that it actually makes money. That's crazy. So one of the biggest industry efforts earlier this year, I know we have some folks on this call who were big participants in that study. It's a really important study by the Association of National Advertisers. The ANA transparency study, the first look study, measured all sorts of things about the programmatic advertising ecosystem. And one of the key findings, well, one, there's the programmatic marketplace is an $88 billion a year marketplace, $88 billion. And they actually measured on campaigns of 21 major advertisers where exactly their ads ran on in the programmatic space. And they estimated that about 21% of the ads ran on made for advertising sites. That's a huge amount. If you extrapolate that to the $88 billion in the landscape, that's about 17 billion, like the estimates are between 13 and 17 billion dollars that's going to made for advertising sites. I mean, in so many cases, advertisers don't even know or never even intended to advertise on those sites, but $17 billion. I mean, imagine what $1 billion or $5 billion directed towards highly reliable local and national news publications. How many jobs would $5 billion of advertising fund in journalism? It's crazy, but just accidentally, inadvertently going to made for advertising sites. So somebody's making, a lot of money on this. There are actually quite a few somebodies making tons of money. Now, again, this is it's people's choice whether they want to spend money on made for advertising sites. And for those in the industry who make made for advertising sites, it's sort of a don't hate the player, hate the game. There's no laws on, well, there are some laws, but around made for advertising sites, it's legal. People can sort of game the programmatic ecosystem and skim dollars from advertiser budgets and make a really nice living doing that. But is that what advertisers really, is that the kind of information ecosystem? Is that the kind of open web that people want? A lot of people answer no. So we want to provide the choice about that. There are a number of approaches to classifying MFA besides ours in the industry, some really great ones. And so there are, like the ANA transparency study used a couple of providers who detect made for advertising sites using different methodologies. In particular, Jounce Media and DeepSea.io have lists of made for advertising sites. Jounce Media, Chris Kane, is one of the smartest people in programmatic, and he's developed ways to detect what's likely made for advertising sites based on measures of how the ads get served, and a concept called supply path optimization. So again, a very, very technical, very intelligent way of detecting when there's a bunch of ads loading on a particular page. So we believe we have a complementary approach. Our approach is manual review in content analysis and background research, because there are likely, it's hard to know exactly how many sites are out there, but the average advertiser in the ANA study, their sites ran on about 44,000 websites. So lists of made for advertising sites, sometimes it's a list of 1,000 or 2,000 or 4,000. There's likely a lot more out there that are truly made for advertising sites. And just detecting them by ad load isn't going to catch all of them. And sometimes trying to catch them by just ad load by themselves is going to create some false positives. So I'll show you some examples of that. But what I mean by false positives is sometimes there are websites that serve a ton of ads, but they are not made for advertising sites. So you don't really want to be unfair to those folks, right? So manual review, content analysis, and background research, meaning we literally look at thousands of websites in order to determine if they're made for advertising. If that sounds like a terrible and tedious, it is, but the trade-off that you get in humor, worth it. So I will share some of that with you. We have a multi-factor test for classifying sites as MFA, made for advertising. We tag the MFA sites if they have, I'll go through all these factors in the next few slides. And we tag them as MFA if they have most or all of the factors listed here. We have about 8 mega factors, and then those have sub factors under those. But we do have a category called borderline MFA, because sometimes it's a close call. Maybe they'll have 4 or 5 of the characteristics of the 8 factors, and we can't definitively say it is or it's not MFA. And there are quite a few that fall into there. One of the most important things in determining that for us, drawing a line between MFA, not MFA, and borderline MFA is the intent, the site creation intent. it's hard to infer intent. So we have to do some digging in order to make a decent call on that. And again, if it's close, we want to have that nuance. We want to have that middle category. In general, our point of view is, yeah, it's a waste of money for advertisers to advertise on MFA sites. They probably shouldn't do it. But borderline MFA sites, I think it's fair game in a lot of cases. MFA sites can also score lower for reliability and higher for bias in our system. So just real quick, our system for rating reliability of news sources from top to bottom. I don't know if this is going to load. Our system for rating reliability and bias of websites, our interactive media bias chart, it goes from top to bottom from 0 to 64, from left to right. I'm going to reload this page to see if that comes up. All right, well, I'll get back to that. But they can score higher for reliability or lower for bias because sometimes we have political MFA. I'll show you some examples of that. And sometimes we have false or misleading or plagiarized MFA, and that scores even lower. So what we do, let's see if this pulled up. It didn't pull up. So on just envision our media bias chart. We actively recommend to advertisers, do advertise in highly reliable news. Don't advertise in really misleading or really polarizing news, like at the bottom of the chart. So our default score for most MFAs is in the middle. Like, we're not actively recommending it and we're not actively excluding it. It's a advertiser choice here. But if it's MFA, it can also score lower for other reasons. Let's get into some more examples. All right, so here's one of the factors. The first one, authorship. So I'll run through these sub-factors, and then I'll go into the examples. We see a lot of fictitious bylines, fake names. And how we find that is, we Google the author, they don't appear to exist, or they only exist as an author on other sites. Sometimes it's listed as, just a first or last name, or it only has an initial. Sometimes they have a short background story, but it doesn't seem real. And we will score sites that are proven to have fake authors in our lowest category for reliability. So it's MFA, but it's very, very low reliability for containing intentionally inaccurate information. It's misleading. It's saying that somebody wrote it and somebody didn't write it. Sometimes there's no bylines, or it's just staff bylines. But sometimes the author is a real person, but all they do is write MFA articles for the site. We'll get into the issue of AI in a second. So here are some examples. Authorship. Sometimes they're creating this content fast and in as cheap as possible way. So sometimes they hide. They don't even hide the fact that the authors aren't real. Look, this is the exact same article. Creating an annual gutter cleaning plan, tips for a well-maintained home by Rio Reed. And here's a picture. But also the exact same article was written by Anita Carlson. Clearly not a real author there. Let me show you this example here. We see quite a bit of this. So this is, I'll show you more about this site. This is called Feed Atlas, and this author is Charlotte Miller. She says, I am Charlotte Miller. I love learning and experiencing new things. Gaining knowledge and expressing myself makes me happy. I believe in hard work, dedication, and determination. Oh, that's nice. Charlotte Miller is from this stock photo right here. So stock photos next to just generic names and profiles. We see this quite a bit. Sometimes they do some. There are some practices that are even a bit more shady than that. I mean, it's already one thing to just lie about the names, or you can argue that, hey, a pseudonym or a pen name, there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes it's even worse. So sometimes they'll actually take the bio of a real author. So this gentleman, John Anthony, a talented author who captivates readers and with his compelling narratives, is a part-time author in Honk News. This is from Web Archive. Honk News is we've identified it as a MFA website, he showcases his expertise in writing across various genres. And, John Anthony is a real author. We found by Googling him, his bio on this website, and that's his picture. And it, takes his picture and his bio here. We reached out to this gentleman asking, do you write for Honk News? Because we found your bio on the site. He said, no, how do I take that down? And so we took it down. We had them contact them. So Honk News, originally they said that John Anthony was the author of this technology article, how to delete this account. Now that article is authored by, apparently, let's see, Kenneth K. Smith. So they just, changed that person out. So these sites get lots of ads. Let's see, it's got some retailer ads. And this is sort of an example of one where the ad experience is a bit obtrusive. There's a huge, button right here. There's a couple of windows over here. There's a giant Chewy ad. I shop at Chewy all the time. Temu, I've never shopped at Temu, but their ads are absolutely everywhere on the internet. So, made for advertising site. All right, what else? Let's go through some other examples. I told you we'd get a lot of tabs opened up here pretty quickly. So let me just X some out. All right, next factor, the about section. The about section can give you clues, and sometimes it has issues that will help you identify that it's made for advertising. So it can often identify a company that appears to own many other websites. Sometimes it doesn't say much about who owns the site. There's no about section, or there's an inaccurate information in the about section. Another clue in how the about sections are laid out, it seems innocuous, but when they'll prominently display these menu items like about, privacy policy, terms of service, copyright, and disclaimer, especially if it's at the top of the page. This is because it's easy. There are large company ad networks out there where they do have some like standards for bare minimum standards. And those include like you have to have like these disclaimers or this terms of service or this copyright, etc. So one way you can quickly identify through the about section, if it's a made for advertising site, this one's called Urban Auntie. So Urban Auntie is about apparently living, food, celebrities, history, real people, TV and movies. And it says about us. So it says, we want to build a brand for an audience. Again, nothing wrong with that. Meet Linda, our ultimate auntie. This is essentially a persona. It says how old she is and where she lives. Also, she's fictional. She may be a fictional character, but she represents the audience we are aiming to reach. So this company that creates these, they have at the bottom of their page their terms of service, their copyright policy, privacy policy, cookies, contact us, about us. They have all those things. But you can easily identify this kind of theme in related sites. So if you go to the about us section of cleverclassic.com, it's the same format. So when we set out to build Clever Classic, we knew we wanted a refined and classic take, made digital and accessible to all. Meet Arthur. This is our persona. He's 66. He's also, again, a fictional character, but he represents the audience that we are aiming to reach. And we'll see lots of examples like this. So this is just a common, probably WordPress theme to create, that you can create multiple sites like this somewhat cheaply, buy domains, buy traffic to it from other sites like AP, Breitbart, Occupy Democrats, Bipartisan Report, your local 9 News. You can buy, these sites can buy traffic from other sites, get ads placed on them in the programmatic buying ecosystem, and essentially attract ad dollars that would go otherwise directly to those sites if they didn't exist. All right, let's talk about other factors. Site creation intent. So this one, again, is important to determining whether it's MFA, not MFA, borderline MFA. And to us, this is really important, especially when something's got a lot of ads on it. And it looks like it was legitimately created as a website. So the things that we're looking for, that it appears to have been created to provide generic, uncontroversial information across several related topics aimed at a particular demographic. For example, this one is, let's see. Entertainment, history, real people, science, sports, TV, and movies. A lot of these purposely avoid news and politics, even though they expressly link to news and politics websites. I'll close these out. There we go. So if it appears to be created by a group that it creates many sites, like the site says it's explicitly made for attracting audiences, like I just showed you there. If it does not appear that it was started by an individual or a company with a particular objective to deliver specific kinds of information or services. So let me illustrate this by showing you sites that are likely not MFA, even if they do have a lot of ads. So sometimes there's blogs about hobbies or trades, or like a blog based on someone's personal experiences. So let's take a look at some of these that are that we consider not MFA. So here's a site called Missy USA, and it's in Korean. But it does show a lot of ads. So you can you can choose to if you want to inspect the site, you can translate it to Korean or to English here. But look, it's got some retailer ads. It has a large pop-up ad here at the top here, and I'm going to close out. And what does it have? Like talk lounge, health and beauty, home and food, motherhood. So if you were looking at some of the things that we pointed out, you say, I wonder if this is MFA. But the more you dig into it, the more you realize it is truly a community, like Korean community with a lot of user-generated content where people talk in forums and they post useful articles about the community. So just going by ads alone could easily like misclassify this one as as MFA. So sometimes it just takes a little bit of digging around these. Now, I want to note that you don't see a ton of ads popping up here necessarily on every site that I'm showing. And one weird thing about MFA sites is sometimes if you go to it directly, like you just type it in Google, it doesn't show as many ads as if you link to it from another site. Weird thing, I'm not sure exactly all the mechanics that make that happen, but sometimes ads load a ton from one source of referral traffic and not from another. All right, and I know this is getting pretty technical here on the ad tech ecosystem. All right, let's go to other things. So that one's not MFA. Let me look at another one. Well, let me just go into some borderline MFA here. All right, this one we categorize as borderline MFA because it has some of the factors, like it has a lot of ads that pop up. Here's one, there's one at the top, there's one at the bottom, and it's gonna fill in with some on the sides. And it's DIY, life, home, food, free printables, essential oil. But the more you click on the articles, the more you see like these are actually pretty high quality. The person who created the site, this photo, this bio, looked around for her on the internet. She exists, she's a real person, and she looks like she's just trying to monetize her website. And this happens with quite a few organically created websites. There is sometimes somebody just does a really good job finding a niche, crafts, DIY. People do love that stuff. Recipes, people love that stuff. People who create organic websites that get very popular can often get enough traffic and they learn how to monetize them. Sometimes they actually learn from MFA networks how to monetize them, like they get approached. Like at Advantes Media, we have a lot of site traffic. So we're always getting emails from MFA network saying, hey, would love to link back to you, and you can share links back and we can help you monetize your site. Now, we don't run any ads on our site, but we get a lot of the marketing for MFA networks that show us how an organically created site like this one can like become MFA over time. So this one, again, because of the ad serving practices, we'll call it borderline, but this was, to say that this is definitely MFA, not really. Maybe too obtrusive of an ad experience for some. So that's why we classify it as borderline. Here's another one. Sometimes owners of sites will sell them as well. So it may have not originally been MFA, but then it got popular. They sold it to an MFA network, and they use that. So War History Online, again, started as organic, but now it has there are like real users of the site that really love war news and military history and military news. And again, it does have a lot of intrusive ads here, like a little too many. But if you go into its about section, looks like it was created originally organically. Borderline MFA, we want to advertise here. There are some audiences. Okay, let's go into some other factors as we get into the latter part of this topic selection. So site has several topic selections, especially if it has like 4 or more categories, but none of them are about politics or current events. This is actually a strategy from MFA sites. Like the topic sections are usually categorized in what we call in the ad industry contextual verticals, like entertainment or finance or automotive or home or food. Because think of it, if you are a brand, a seller, you're like, oh, I am an entertainment brand. I would like to advertise on sites that are entertainment. Or I am a pet food brand. I want to advertise on sites that are about pets. Or I am a credit card. I want to advertise on sites that are about finance. Well, super easy to create verticals. And there's lots of technology in the ad tech ecosystem that says this is what these websites are about. Let's see. Like this one is about work and money. So the ads on here are going to be about, these are all, these ads are typically going to be more about like finance. Let's see. This one is about viral sharks. This is about pets, wild animals, lifestyle, animal science. Again, one thing to notice about some of these sites is that they don't necessarily have a lot of ads. They're out in the internet, in the programmatic bid stream. They're out there to compete for those dollars, but they're not the most high traffic ones. The ones where a ton of ads are popping up, those are like the most successful made for advertising sites, because they have lots of traffic, there's lots of bids. This one probably not as much traffic, so it doesn't have as many ads. So this might not pop up on other folks' lists as an MFA, because look, I scroll down. Here is an ad. Again, you can see the things that I'm targeted for. Corporate apparel for your people in your company. There you go, from Threadfellows. There's Avis Rent-A-Car. But it's not too many. I mean, it's not an offensive amount of ads. This might not get caught in a classification that's just based on ad load. Okay, let's keep going. Timeliness. A large portion of these stories are evergreen, meaning they could be written about anytime, as opposed to news. So news content is, every day they're putting up new relevant news content. And or some of the content is somewhat timely, but it could have been written about within the last month or the year. A significant proportion is more than 6 months old. If you look at this work for money, like this one's somewhat timely because Travis Kelce is in the news, but 15 toys that raked in millions and even billions of dollars. What's gotten so expensive is no longer worth it. The 10 states Americans are migrating to. Again, evergreen content. This could be written about anytime and even recycled. You can just slap a new date on it. Say, we published this today, change the URL, what have you. So evergreen content is interesting because who else does evergreen content? News sites, real news sites. Who does like DIY and crafts and recipes and stuff? Also real news sites. It's a thing that people are attracted to. Like they read it. And with many reputable advertisers, they're reputable publishers, they create evergreen content or non-news content specifically so they have some inventory to sell to advertisers. And when you think about it, it's kind of sad because anybody can create that content. Not everybody can do journalism. Not everybody has the resources to hire journalists to go out in the world, to like do interviews, to file FOIA requests, to look through documents, to find stories that are important to bring them to us. But how publishers are squeezed today, they sometimes need to. They just create like some filler content on their sites. So some of the stuff is more appealing to advertisers. Sort of a sad thing. All right, let's get to some other fun ones. The content generation. All right, this is really ramping up these days, especially because of generative AI. So in general, the kind of content that we see could have been created without any journalistic effort, like just by Googling stuff. It's not false information, it's not misinformation. It's, if it's just stories about celebrities, it's real, but it doesn't require any journalistic effort. Sometimes content can be generated according to a template with source information from an external source. Let me show you some examples of that. So, all right, I think I showed you this one a little bit earlier, which is financeinsurance.com. Couple of fun things about this one. And Feed Atlas. Okay. We actually, this is the one where with Charlotte Miller, the fake author. You've got so much content. You've got sort of everything, a classic that we've covered so far. About us, contact us, disclaimer, privacy policies, terms and conditions, categories. Look at all the categories. Oh my gosh, they have categories about literally everything. This article has a particular template. It has innovative solutions for aging in place. And then it has contents. It has like a table of contents. It has these headings and paragraphs. Okay? And the format of all this, this is likely AI generated. We haven't gone to the depths to confirm it, but so much similar content exists on some of these other sites that it's a fair assumption. Oh, let me show you this. So the About page on Feed Atlas says that this was founded in 2020 by Rohan Matthew. It's come a long way from its beginnings in Pune. When Rohan first started out, his passion for spreading knowledge drove them to make feedatlas.com. Okay, great. But Finance Insurance, oddly, was founded also in 2020, but by Janet Brown. It's a very similar website, also came from its beginnings. Janet Brown, when his passion for spreading knowledge drove them to make financeandinsurance.com. Let's see. Oh, here, this is an example of algorithmically template generated content. So what is MyCom rice cooker? Oh, it's by Charlotte Miller, who was on the other site. Look at that. MyCom rice cooker. Again, this follows a similar format. Are you curious to know what is MyCom rice cooker? You have come to the right place, as I'm going to tell you everything about MyCom rice cooker in a very simple explanation. Without further discussion, let's begin to know what is MyCom rice cooker. So this is algorithmically, like as a template generated. They can fit any product in here and essentially write like a product review, key features and functions, benefits and convenience, so they can scrape this information from like a product page or something and then just create an article about it. So there sometimes these sites can take publicly available information like from studies and then just put it in a template and put it in an article. It's a very easy way to create a lot of content. Let me just jump to examples of AI content where it specifically says that. This exists a lot in the area of product reviews. So that also does compete with those like actual real product review sites. If you scroll to the bottom, it says, if you read it, it says another feature you may want to consider. One way to figure out your budget. One of the main features you want to look for. Another feature of a stove you don't want to forget. When all is said and done, blah, blah, blah. Sounds like ChatGPT? It is. Or another large language model. It says this text was generated using a large language model and select text has been reviewed and moderated for purposes such as readability. So this one, this site links to other real ads, other, ad for Facebook, and some other MFA sites it links to. All right, having so much fun with examples, but let me show you some other key things that identify MFAs that are some of my favorites. Infinite scroll. Let's look at infinite scroll. We sort of covered all these other things, but these are amazing to me. Infinite scroll. Here we go. That means that there is no end to this website, which also means there is no end to the number of ads, the ad space on the website. This page is entirely articles template generated. It says, who is this person? It is the wife or father or son or whatever of some other person. And if you try to get to the bottom, nope. Look at my scroll bar over here. Nope. There is just more, and if you leave this long enough, it's gonna do ads. It's gonna show a bunch of ads. Here's another one where it does it with the articles. How much does landscaping cost? I don't think you realize how long an article about how much does landscaping cost could really be, but very, very long. Oh my gosh, look at this bar over here. So eventually it, let's let these ads load. Okay. Oh, it has ads for grass, for all things turf, if you happen to end up on this site. I may be making my computer mad at this point, so I'm just gonna X out of here because I don't want to push my luck. But a couple more things. Ad serving practices, we saw that. Let me end on a couple of others. We see lots of plagiarism, especially with sites that with news sites. It's really easy to create your own news sites or services like RSS feeds where you can basically scrape and steal like without paying for other sites and just compile them on a news site from like the best sites in the world. There are sites that will share their content according to their copyright. They have like free content that they can share, but in most cases, like this site is mostly plagiarized content from other, like it says this was created by user, this was posted by user. There's like no byline here. This has a ton of ads. This article, they just take the text right out here and they even show you the article that they plagiarized it from, which is in this case, The Guardian. They do that on all of them. Here's a fun example of literally all the practices. plagiarism, and they didn't even hide it very well. They took this example from the Daily Mail. This article is a Daily Mail article. And somewhere the instruction said, rewrite this title, but they forgot to rewrite the title. The title is the exact same as the actual Daily Mail article. If you look at the Daily Mail article here, it says it's a Jada Smith article. Daily Mail also does a lot of practices that are very MFA-like. It's one of the largest news websites in the world. And this, but on this cedarnews.net, there is a large, super obtrusive ad by Chewy. It's taking forever to load. Etsy, we've got some boots over here, and they just copied all the text, but put extra ads in here. So here's one, here's one line of the text, ads. One line of the text, more ads from Temu. Another line of text, more ads, etc., etc. I mean, this is pretty bad, right? Yikes. I think you've seen all the things I bought on the internet. I haven't bought these boots, but I do have Carryoma shoes and all these toys from Chewy. All right. What else is fun? Oh, there's a couple of other things they do, like political MFA. These draw audiences too. So this is the dailybeat.org, probably trying to steal a little traffic from the Daily Beast. On the left, this tends to be more like left-leaning content on here, but it's basically similar practices, all the stuff. A lot of advertorials have like pretty gross pictures. That's a fun thing. And then here's one on the right, media right news. Again, topic stuff that's just generated algorithmically, all written by the same person, templates, lots of ads, etc. So those, you want to look at all those things, because there are certain sites that, like I said, come up as false positives. For example, this one, Daily Entertainment News. This is an example of something that has lots and lots of ads, all the hallmarks that we went through, and is MFA. This one even says, this is about Barry Williams. If you remember him from the Brady Bunch, it says he was famous for his role as Grady Brady. It was Greg Brady. So we see lots of inaccurate things, but funny stuff. Big brand ads on this, including one that just totally takes over your screen. So that is MFA. However, sometimes you've got real news sites, like I said, poor news sites, they're just trying to monetize. They're in a bind, they're struggling. This is a highly reputable news organization, highly rated site, the News and Observer. And again, lots of ads, but not MFA, It's got actually some good big brand ads on here, and I'm happy for them for that. Although, advertisers would probably like to see a few less ads on it. And then this, the one that we saw before, this finance and insurance one, this one, our Feed Atlas, this has no ads on it yet. It's not yet being monetized as MFA. So there's tons that are out there that are being created in order to start siphoning dollars out of the programmatic ecosystem. And our methods of identifying them, we'll catch them and we put them on lists so that if they show up in programmatic bid streams, you can exclude them from your purchases if you so choose as an advertiser. All right, we have to date well over 1,000 of these MFA sites classified in a list. We have them available for exclusion in various ad tech platforms. And I'm at the end of time. I'm sorry I didn't really get to any questions, but please do email us at adfontesmedia.com if you want to see any more information or ask how we can help you with these. So thank you so much. And have a great day. I will stick around to ask a question or two here. So Does Google attempt to exclude MFAs from search results? Could they don't show it very. No, I think the short answer there is no. Could AI be used to detect MFAs? Yeah, that it's really difficult because current AI for detecting AI is sort of hit or miss. And we do at Adfontes, we, as you know, we rate articles by hand with humans using content analysis methodologies. We also score articles with AI based on our human rated data samples. And we actually find potential MFAs using some modeling and in order to find new potential ones that look similar to other potential ones. So we do some automation for dredging them up from the web. However, definitively classifying them, you see all these edge cases. It's very difficult to definitively classify things. So our experience using you're building AI and doing it manually, like doing the hard work, shows us that people would love shortcuts to this, but there aren't any. You've got to use humans, at least in part, in order to do it correctly. So thanks for that question. All right, I'm going to jump off. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.